Jim and Linda reside with their daughters Bridget and Megan, in a lovely American suburb. Although they have a wonderful life together, recently there has been tension, because Jim is frequently gone on business travels. Linda doesn't answer the phone when it rings one afternoon. Jim, who is away on a different vacation, is the one leaving the message. Before he can continue, he had to hang up because he has another call. He claims that he meant what he said to the girls the previous night, and that he wants Linda to remember it. When Linda phones Jim back because she doesn't understand the message, she hears the answering machine and asks him to call her back, before returning to her tasks, to prevent accidents. This also entails placing some stickers on the glass panes. Later, Linda is visited by Sheriff Riley, who informs her that Jim passed away the day before in a collision with a truck. Linda is confused, because she just received his message on the answering machine. But Riley reassures her that it is true, leaving her in a helpless and devastated situation. Linda walks through the motions of the house, while sobbing before heading to the school to pick up her girls, holding back the news until they are in a secure environment at home. A little while later, Linda's mother Joanne arrives at the house, to assist her daughter with everything. Linda then contacts her best friend Annie for assistance, but she is once again greeted by the answering machine. Joanne spends the night in the visitor's room, but Linda nods off on the couch, while clutching a photo of their wedding. Linda awakens the following morning in her bed and is dressed differently. Joanne is nowhere to be found. When she goes to check on her mother, who she suspects has moved, Linda rushes downstairs, after hearing some noises, and is astonished to see Jim, nonchalantly eating breakfast as usual. Although this is better, Linda feels a little uneasy because if it was all a dream, it felt so genuine. Linda checks the answering machine after dropping the girls off at school, but finds no messages there. She almost smashes another car while driving to the grocery store because she is so preoccupied. Sheriff Riley visits her to see how she's doing, and issues a warning, although he isn't familiar with her. Linda asks Annie if she sent her a message yesterday at the store, but Annie replies that she didn't. After that, Linda returns home to continue doing her tasks. Beginning with the laundry, she discovers several items she had been certain she had already washed. Then, as she goes to hang the clothes in the garden, she trips over a toy and lands on a dead crow, which leaves her covered in blood. Linda throws the crow in the garbage, and goes to the bathroom to wash her hands. Linda can't stop glancing at Jim, later while having dinner and going to bed. Since she doesn't think he is real, Linda awakens the next morning in bed by herself, still wearing Jim's shirt. There is a bottle of alcohol on her nightstand. Blankets are draped over all the mirrors in the house, and there is a bottle of medicine in the kitchen sink, among other elements that further perplex her. Even worse, when she descends the steps, she learns that Jim's burial is being handled by Joanne and Annie. When Linda claims that Jim is still alive, no one believes her, so she flips out and dismisses her friends' concerns, in favor of searching for their daughters. When Linda checks on the girls, while they are in the garden, she is disturbed to see Bridget, who Megan still believes to be the most beautiful princess, despite having wounds all over her face. When Linda responds that she doesn't remember, because she wasn't present when Jim passed away, Bridget asks how they can be sure he is dead at that point. Linda asks to be permitted to view the body. When the hearse later arrives at the cemetery, Linda starts arguing with the funeral staff, because it is her right to see, and they are refusing to open the coffin, because Jim was severely injured in the accident. When the coffin is dropped accidentally by the workers, as a result of their anxiety, Jim's head rolls out, and Linda sobs, and the priest has finished speaking and the casket has been lowered into the ground. Linda observes a woman standing nearby and watching the ritual. Joanne is unsure of who it is, so Linda goes to ask. However, Claire responds that they spoke yesterday and drives off, disregarding the fact that Linda is adamant she has never seen her before in her life. Linda examines the medication bottle more carefully. When the family gets home and sees that Dr. Roth had prescribed it, when Linda searches for him in the yellow pages, she finds that the page that corresponds to his listing has been torn off. Just as she is about to give up, she turns her head away and sees that the page is in the garbage. Roth's office is already closed when Linda attempts to contact. The family receives an odd visit in the evening. Dr. Roth is here with Riley to take Linda away on the assumption that she intentionally wounded Bridget, though Linda doesn't recognize him. Joanne begs her daughter to explain how Bridget got those scars, but Joanne is unable to recall the incident, and becomes irrationally alarmed by the charge. She is violently grabbed by a group of nurses, who then transport her to an ambulance. Riley overhears Roth informing Linda that, when she visited him on Wednesday, she already knew her husband would die. A little while later, Linda is left bound to a bench at the hospital. Riley begins to suspect that Jim's passing might not have been an accident after all. Roth then administers an injection to put Linda to sleep, while disregarding her cries for help. The following morning, Linda awakens in her home once more. Jim's back may be heard from the loo. Linda hurries to cling to him in the shower, disregarding the possibility of becoming wet herself. When the girls awaken, Linda notices the scars have vanished, and identifies both of them as her lovely princesses. After a while, she notices a strange odor emanating from the dumpster, and finds the dead crow still there, still rotting as if weeks had gone. She panics and hurries inside to look for Roth's number, only to discover that the page is still there, unaltered. After a short while, Linda visits Roth, who doesn't recognize her. After he conducts a mental health examination and hears all about her recent visions, Roth prescribes the identical medication Linda had seen on her washbasin. She then visits Jim at work to find out why he doesn't spend more time at home. Jim has a meeting that he needs to attend, so she wants to go with him and the girls, so they can have a proper chat with her husband. In response, Claire enters and addresses Linda as though she is unfamiliar with her. Before escorting Jim to the meeting, Linda becomes aware that Jim is cheating on her. When she observes them together, later, at home, Linda makes the decision to flush the medication down the sink. As a storm approaches, Linda begs her daughters to assist her. In bringing the laundry inside, Bridget runs carelessly and collides with the glass window, inflicting injuries throughout her body. Jim soon follows Linda in taking Bridget to the hospital, and assures her that everything will be alright. Bridget is given permission to return home in the evening. Although she is well, her face is covered in scars. Linda tells both of her girls they are lovely princesses, and covers every mirror in the home, so Bridget can't see herself. Linda then goes to check on Jim, who is having a difficult day. He questions Linda as to why she failed to adhere the stickers to the windows, as she had promised, and Linda responds that she mistakenly believes she had. Jim claims she invited Joanne to stay for a few days, to assist Linda, and that she has been acting irrationally, since he doesn't trust her. While crying and pledging to be a good mother, Linda is ignored. Later, Linda discovers the yellow page in her pocket and disposes of it. This makes her comprehend that she has been experiencing what she saw in those strange dreams, indicating that she has been getting visions of the future, and that she may use this knowledge to alter the present. She picks a pen and paper and creates a timetable, using everything she is aware of, concluding that Jim will pass away on her next business trip. This drives Linda to request that Jim cancel the vacation, but Jim objects, saying that their relationship needs some distance. Linda awakens on the couch the following morning, and Joanne is still in the house. Finding the chronology she created, Linda updates it with new information. After understanding Claire is yet another confusing point that needs to be clarified. Linda visits Claire and tells her that she was having an affair with Jim. After leaving the girls with Joanne, she then visits Annie to express her anger over the situation, and to ask if it was a good thing that the tragedy occurred, because Jim's affair may have destroyed the family. A few hours later, Linda visits the bank to make sure Jim left her an annuity, in addition to taking care of the mortgage and her girls' education. She is surprised to hear from the banker that Jim arrived at the location just before departing on his trip, appearing tense and wanting to make sure his family would be okay without him. Next, Linda seeks some tranquility by watching the nearby lake, and a neighboring man informs her that if she needs to start again, she should relocate here. Last but not least, she makes her way to the funeral planning. Linda retires to bed with a bottle of wine and Jim's shirt in the evening. If letting Jim die is the same as killing him, Linda queries when Joanne checks on her, but Joanne is baffled by the query. The following morning, Jim is awakened by Linda, who requests that he spend the day with the girls in the park. She visits Father Kennedy in the interim to discuss her problem. Kennedy tells her about the numerous instances of unexplained phenomena that have occurred throughout history and how they were viewed as dangers of the faithless, since they originated from people who had lost their faith and were in a dire situation. Kennedy believes that Linda needs to focus on her priorities and fight for them, but Linda is unsure of what she is fighting for. Linda then travels to mile 220, the location of Jim's anticipated accident. She suddenly becomes overwhelmed with the visions she's been experiencing, which prevents her from seeing an approaching car but, fortunately, allows her to move aside just in time. When the girls are about to go to bed in the evening, Linda insists Jim tell them he loves them. Jim affirms that his love for his wife and daughters surpasses all other loves. After that, Linda goes outside to get some fresh air, and when Jim arrives to see how she is doing, they start to argue. Linda wants things to return to the way they were, but Jim believes he is providing for the family perfectly, and finds it difficult to comprehend her desires. The crow Linda would later discover is killed abruptly by lightning that strikes a power line. The couple returns inside, and after Linda apologizes to Jim for her actions, they start acting flirtatious. After they're done, Linda admits she had a dream about Jim dying, but Jim assures her it was just a dream, and everything would be okay. Linda wakes up the following morning and becomes alarmed when she doesn't see Jim. After calling Annie to establish which timeline she is in, she discovers a message from Jim stating that he would drop the girls off at school. Before departing on his trip, Jim is too preoccupied with the girls and going to the bank to make arrangements for his family to answer the phone as Linda rushes out of the house. While calling to stop him, Jim can't get the conversation he had with Linda last night out of his head, so as he gets in his car to depart, he decides to call Claire and cancel their relationship. He then makes a call to the home phone and leaves the message that Linda had previously heard on the answering machine. When he hangs up because another call is coming in, Linda calls him from her car, because she is trying to stop him by pursuing him on the road. When Jim is about to confess the affair, Linda claims she already knows and doesn't care, leading Jim to swear they would start over properly and continue working on their relationship. Linda apologizes for everything. Jim immediately stops his automobile to wait for Linda, after spotting her in the rearview mirror. When Linda realizes they are on mile 220, the location of the accident, she panics as she gets ready for the reunion. Jim quickly obeys her urgent command to turn the car around, but as soon as he does, a car approaches from the other direction. Thankfully, Jim manages to dodge it just in time. Linda is relieved to learn that her husband is unharmed, but it seems she overlooked Riley's comment that a truck was to blame for the collision. When Jim tries to start the car again to leave the road, but it won't start, the huge truck suddenly appears and plows into Jim's automobile. Before she can get any closer, both trucks explode, and Linda collapses as she realizes she can't change the future. She had been running to check on him. Many months later, when the moving trucks show up to fetch them up, the girls disturb Linda from her nap. Linda remembers Kennedy teaching her to fight for what really counts, and is relieved to see Bridget's scars mostly gone. The most important thing right now is Linda's growing tummy, because of her pregnancy, as a result of that previous night with Jim. The end. If you like this story, please subscribe to the channel and like it, to motivate me to bring you more stories like this.